My name's Tim Kenny from Tim Kenny Surveying, and this video today probably a little bit different from some of the other videos I've done, because you can't talk about some kind of technical stuff and bits and pieces in this one. But today I want to talk about something probably more important in some ways to surveyors, and that's kind of jobs, getting a job, finding a job, and progressing in that job. And in part this was prompted by something I saw on LinkedIn. Naturally, it was a job advert, and one of the things I love to see are all the adverts for surveyors, residential surveying roles on LinkedIn. I see so many of them. It's a great thing to see. It highlights that there is this still strong demand for residential surveyors coming into the industry, progressing through the industry. But the other good thing is that advert said, they were seeking for SAVA qualified surveyors, which again, I really like to see as a SAVA trainer, someone who's been involved with that qualification for a few years. It's great to see that. So again, that qualification is highly in demand within the profession. Right. So that side of it, really happy to see that. However, there were some things that in that advert, when you dig a little deeper, that raised really some concerns for me. And I'm not going to name the company because these concerns may not be fully justified. They may have perfectly valid answers to some of the questions that I would ask if it was me applying for that role. So I'm not disparaging them at all. But it kind of highlighted a couple of things that I think would be really important for any surveyor going into a role to ask, but obviously particularly for newly qualified surveyors and that sort of thing. The first thing that concerned me is the firm themselves are not actually a RICS regulated firm. Quickly says on their website, they're not RICS regulated. They actually make the option to say we are not RICS regulated, effectively. And that's fair. The concern would be that if you are RICS member, if you're employing RICS members, you are run by RICS members, and you are offering surveying services, then you have to be a RICS regulated firm. It could well be that they have done, that's something updated, the website's not been updated, that could be out. So again, I'm not disparaging them. But it's a really important and key point to note. Again, if you are a surveyor looking for a role and your employer is not RICS regulated, that obviously raises a concern. It could be that they're not applying particular standards. It may well be, again, RICS regulated firms can be completely ethically sound, really doing good quality work. So that's not necessarily the direct concern. But it's a bit like the concern I have around building work, right? If you see somebody's not follow the rules in one area, then where else may they not have followed the rules, right? I was going to talk about technical stuff, but we can talk about Hart and Large, which is a really important case. Part of that rested on the fact that what the surveyor could see on the outside implied there might be more hidden defects what he couldn't see, right? And you can kind of take the same view on a surveying firm. If what they present on the outside, if there's things in there that don't match up with the regulations, match up with the requirements, then you think, okay, well, what corners might be cut elsewhere? What attitude might exist within that firm that is otherwise concerning? Next thing that kind of struck me, and I think again is not just specific to this one, it's something that's really important to understand for all of, particularly for those surveyors just coming into the profession. So this particular thing, this particular advert, saying that level 2 and level 3 surveys and some party wall work training provided. The question I have to ask is, well, what is that training? Right? How are they offering that training? As far as I'm aware, this firm doesn't currently undertake party wall work because, as it said, they don't provide surveying services to the public. They're not a RICS regulated firm. So how are they going to provide that training? Now, it could be that they're getting external training people in, or they're getting internal training courses and what have you. That's really good. But of course, what supervision of experience goes along with that? How are they going to make sure that you, once in the job, are competent, qualified to do the job? It's all well and good doing the external learning, and that's really great and that's important. But a lot of the learning happens on the job and should be supervised by somebody who is competent to do that. So that would be a question I would ask. Yeah, that's great. What is that learning going to look like? And what is going to be the ongoing supervision to make sure I build the right experience? Because that's just as important as the external learning. Uh, Similarly with the fact that he's saying you can do level 3 surveys. Right, that's great. Again, good surveyors should want to progress to do level 3 surveys. But we recognise that the SARVA qualification in particular is mainly focused around level 2 surveys. So your questions would be, okay, well, how are you going to help me develop my skills into doing level 3 surveys? Is that going through some form of shadowing somebody else doing a level 3 survey? Again, are they already providing service? Do they have people within the organisation who have experience doing that and supervise you whilst you learn on the job? It isn't just a question of go and do a training course and go and knock out some level 3 surveys. So as somebody who offers training on level 3 surveys, I spend 6 hours providing an introduction to level 3 surveys. And I'm very specifically at the beginning, very first slide on that, my slide deck says you may not be competent to do level 3 survey after this 6 hours. I'm literally just telling you what is involved in a level 3 survey. Then up to you to go and fill in the blanks that you're having your knowledge from. And that's in 6 hours. You need to be learning that on the job. So that's kind of really two of the biggest points for me is, okay, what can you see? Are there any red flags within the way they are presenting what they do? Are there any evidence that they may not be following all requirements? Now, that may be accidental, they may not matter in and of themselves, but that may give you some concerns what's happening in the background. So the part is, okay, get detail as to what training will be provided. It's all well and good saying training provided, but what's that going to look like? That's a question that you should be asking as a surveyor applying for a role that is going to need you to up your skills, right? What is that really going to look like? If they can't answer that, then that would obviously be a concern. If they say, oh, well, we're just, we're going to be checking your reports and there's a WhatsApp group and what have you, then you know what, maybe that's a little bit of a concern for you. And I'm saying this not because I think there are many dodgy firms, that's a strong word, but many firms that are not following rules. They say the one that's part of this, I'm not aware of whether they are, of course, if there is any kind of issues there. These are some of the questions I would ask. But we know that there have been, and there probably are companies out there that are perhaps not acting in the best possible way. And obviously there needs to be more from the RICS to deal with these firms and there is stuff happening. But also there's an obligation on us as surveyors to kind of do our due diligence, go into these things with open eyes and say, okay, you know what? Where am I seeing the concerns? Treat it exactly the same way you would treat inspecting a house. Look at everything, get that information in, allow that to process, ask the questions. What further investigations do you need to do to make sure that the condition of that job is a condition you're willing to accept? If you were taking that job like you were buying a house, you'd treat it a lot more thoroughly. You wouldn't just take certain things at face value. And one of the ways to do that, of course, is always going to be speak to people, speak to other people within the industry, join groups like Facebook, Surveyors Hub, and the other groups that exist, and get on LinkedIn, connect with other surveyors so you have that kind of people to ask the questions of, get that information, get that sense of what's going on. Again, if you're a SARVA student, one of the best things you can do is get a mentor and have a conversation with your mentor about what they would expect from a job. Even if they don't know themselves, they might be able to connect you with somebody else who knows worked for that firm and can give you some input. I think that I did recently for a student, and it was really helpful, I think for that student to kind of understand how that company worked and what they were expecting from surveyors. I'm going to say that's all I want to kind of really say today. It's just get that idea across. You need to be thinking about what you're seeing there. Not because all surveying firms are bad, but we know there are some bad ones out there. And even if they're not, you need to just make sure you are doing your due diligence. Thank you very much.